I want to talk about reducing range of motion too far in season. It's something that a lot of coaches and a lot of players do, and there's really no good reason for it. Let me find myself a small bar over here so I can demonstrate. So when it comes to in-season, when it comes to changing your training for in-season, it doesn't need to be that drastically different from what you do in a pre-season. People think, oh, you know, I've got to change what I do. I need to make sure that I'm fresh and ready for game day. And absolutely you do. You've got to be ready for game day. Game day is the priority. But I think a lot of the time, and a lot of the time it's coaches, people really overestimate the fatiguing effects that a few good sets of bench press or squats will have on a good athlete. So just to backtrack a little bit, when it comes to in season, a lot of the time what coaches will do is we'll take, say, a back squat and we'll start doing some box squats in season, or we'll take a bench press. I see this a lot, and people will do a block press or a floor press. So taking the range of motion down a little bit, reducing the range of motion, cranking the weight right up, and then by doing so, by increasing the weight but taking the range down, puts a little bit less stress on the joints, but still gets that same neural or nervous system development. Now, all well and good, but a lot of footy seasons, a lot of rugby league seasons, that's the context we're talking about here, a lot of rugby league seasons are a very, very long thing. If you've got someone who's got a 20 plus rugby league week season or a 15 week plus rugby league season, and you're only block pressing them or box squatting them that entire time, that person's just going to get weak in those deeper ranges of motion. Those deeper ranges of motion are where a lot of the injuries are going to occur in games. You're not going to get someone who tears a pec here when they're pressing. You're going to get someone who tears a pec when they're getting pulled or when they're getting wrestled around like that. Now, obviously, you can't prevent a pec tear, but we need to still be physically strong and resilient in deep positions throughout the year. So spend a few weeks from time to time where you're tapering or peaking for games or whatever it may be, reducing range. But if you've got someone, let's say a bench press, this being a full range of motion on a bench press, hands are in a bad spot there, this being a full range of motion. If you've got a block press where someone puts a big old block on the chest, so they'll put like a huge physical block there. Let's pretend I've got that there. They'll come in and they'll stop it there, and they press. Yes, sweet. That's powerful. Great for the central nervous system. We're still working that, still hitting the pec tries, all that stuff that we're trying to hit. Bang. But what happens to this range? What happens when we need to be strong through that range of motion? So what I'm getting at here, just get the concept through that rugby league players still need to maintain strength through full ranges of motion. Now that might look different for you than it does from the guy or girl next to you. Everyone has different ranges of motion or different full ranges. But I'm very much a big fan and a big advocate, and I've found this really, really works, is making sure that you are still going full range of motion through the season. Play with it a little bit for sure, cycle it in. So maybe you have 3 or 4 weeks where oftentimes I'll go 3 or 4 weeks of loading up super heavy on box squats or say, you know, a floor press or something like that. So we'll get that strength and we'll get that big force output from doing those higher load movements. So box squats and floor presses will generally be higher load than the full range of motion would normally allow. But then I'll cycle through a few weeks of going for depth. Maybe we're going deficits on something. Maybe we're going just a general full range of motion, going a little bit lighter on it than we otherwise would have done in pre-season. So instead of massively increasing the load like we would on a floor press, we're going a bench press and we're maybe just staying a little bit lighter than we normally would if we were doing that in pre-season. It's not an exact science, but the point is, this is still important. It's not just about this. Just because it looks a bit sexier to throw a big chunk of weight on and do a big ass floor press or a big box squat, or those are the 2 examples I've used, but there's heaps of other ones. If your coach only has you doing half reps or quarter reps or reduced range of motion reps all through the season, have a conversation with them and ask why. Why are we only doing half reps? You still need that resilience at the bottom. Flexibility is how far a joint can move. Mobility is how far it can move under control, under your own steam. If you don't have the mobility to move through your entire range of motion, when that range of motion gets challenged in a game of rugby league or at training, something is going to break down. So the point of this is you still need to train full range of motion throughout a season. Just because the half reps are sexier and they're not as fatiguing doesn't mean you can avoid full reps from time to time. Doesn't have to be every session, doesn't have to be every lift, but you still need to expose yourself to what you're capable of in season. If you want to get a couple of full range sets in and still go heavy, that's great. Just reduce your volume, 2-3 sets. You're still going to get plenty out of it if you're treating it with the right intensity. Not everything has to be backed off in season. All right, happy training.